I suppose I'll just philosophise, when are we going to stop killing each other? I mean, what does it say in the Bible? Thou shalt not kill. Is that the Old or New Testament, Bobby Wren? Old Testament. Well, it says other not such nice things, but that's a good thing it says. Thou shalt not kill. And what did Jesus say? Love thine enemy and do good to those who hate you. And in the nuclear age now, we've got to stop killing each other. Killing each other. We mustn't be crucifying people who might have done naughty things. We shouldn't be, the death penalty should be out. I mean, this is one of the few civilised countries in the world that, well, shall I call it civilised or uncivilised, that kill people. And Perry, is it Perry, that awful man from Texas who's running for president? He said he killed 325 people and the audience cheered. Yes. My God! Is this the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages or the ages of the witch hunting? What is happening to this country that's supposed... And how many people go to church and call themselves Christians? Jesus would be turning on his cross if he knew what people were up to here. And they think if they go to church they'll be moral, I heard that. I mean, we are born with a sense of morality and the human heart. And how many babies have I delivered to see their purity when they're born? And you know when I see that again? When people are on their deathbeds. Men who've lived quite wicked lives, even maybe Rupert Murdoch. Oh, God. On their deathbed, their soul opens up like a rosebud, and I see that purity and goodness of the human heart with which they were born. Or when their children are dying, and they fall into my arms weeping, because it's there in everyone. And I love that song, because that's what we've got to tap into, the wisdom and the beauty and generosity and kindness, but more knowledge of the human heart. And I know it's there in everyone, hence my optimism and why I keep going after 41 years. You all have it here, but I know that everyone has it. And I think the thing is to get to the audience of American people, because it is this country that is determining the fate of the earth, whether you like it or not. That's right. It is the most powerful country on earth, partly because it can blow up the planet tonight and cause nuclear winter. Did you know that of the 22,000 hydrogen bombs in the world today, Russia and America own 97% of them? And they go on about Iran. Ooh, look, ooh, they might have a nuclear weapon. Ooh, what about that one? What about North Korea? Did you know that you've got thousands of nuclear weapons ready to go on hair trigger alert? I flew over those missile silos the other day in the Dakotas. You look down and there are these round circles connected by roads, round circle, hundreds of them. And in each missile silo there's a missile called a Minuteman III with 3 hydrogen bombs on it, much bigger than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And in each missile silo are 2 men aged 18 to 21, Pavlovian dogs. Yes, sir, no, sir, press the button, sir. Each armed with a pistol, one to shoot the other if one shows signs of deviant behaviour. No, not suicide. Think. Who would use the gun first? The deviant one. I mean, QED, common sense. And there's a lot 12 feet apart. So to launch the missile when they get the signal from Washington, from Obama, one man can't turn both locks to launch the missiles if he happens to be deviant and shot the other one. Except they worked out if you tie a string to one key, one man can actually turn both locks. I've talked to their girlfriends when I've been out there. They sometimes take drugs before they go down there. You know what? We're fallible. And we have developed a technology with which we have to be infallible. And you know what? We're not. Even doctors are fallible. We sometimes kill our patients. You don't know because we don't tell you. We make mistakes. We can make you much sicker. We don't tell you. But you know what? We are all fallible. Now, Russia's got a similar number of weapons. And you know what the policy of the Pentagon is? Still, even though Russia's best friends, and I've just been in New York, and there are these people working in the restaurants and as waiters, and they're Russians. It's so nice. You say spasiba, and there are Poles. I'm a Pole. My name's actually Helen Bronowski. My great-grandfather was Polish. And it's so wonderful, because think back 20 years ago when everyone hated the Russians and the communists. When I first came here in 78, almost every American I spoke to said it's better to be dead than red. And I said, what? You'd rather have a nuclear war? Yeah, we don't want to be communist. When I came here first in 66 as a young mother, they said, are you a communist? Communist, they said in immigration. I didn't even know what a communist was. And I said, well, you'll all be blown up. And I said, what about the pygmies in Africa? They said, well, yeah, they don't want to be communist either. And then we started Physicians for Social Responsibility, and we started doing the bombing runs in each city around the country and describing the areas of vaporization. Like if a bomb comes in here, it explodes with the heat in the centre of the sun, digs a hole 3/4 of a mile wide and 800 feet deep. And then 5 miles from here, the epicenter, everyone's vaporized. A little boy was reaching up to catch a red dragonfly on his hand against the blue of the sky in Hiroshima, and there was a blinding flash, and he disappeared. And he left his shadow on the pavement. And if you go to the museum in Hiroshima, that pavement with his shadow is there. And that's the first time man had developed a technique to vaporize his fellow human beings. 20 miles out from here, everyone's lethally burnt, 3rd-degree burns. But don't worry, the White House has been stockpiling huge quantities of morphine just in case we are to have a nuclear war. And then the whole area will be engulfed in a firestorm of 3,000 square miles. And in the middle of the winter, everything and everyone burns. And the fires coalesce right across the United States, east to west, north to south, and the whole country burns. So there are 40 hydrogen bombs targeted on New York as I speak, 60 on Washington, 60 on Moscow, and I just described one. Such a redundancy of weapons. And yet, they talk about rogue states. Who are the real rogue states threatening to blow up the planet? Russia and America. But we're friends. The Berlin Wall, if you go to Berlin now, you can hardly see remnants of the Berlin Wall. Why are we still targeting each other? Why does the Pentagon still have an official policy to fight and win a nuclear war? And let me walk you through it. It goes like this. First, you send a missile over, probably from one of your Trident submarines in the Atlantic, just off the coast of Europe, and the missile takes 5 minutes to hit Moscow, and you decapitate Moscow. That's a Pentagon term. You cut their head off. That means you kill Putin or Medvedev before they have a chance to press their button, right? So that's good. And then you launch all your missiles, and you have 2 hydrogen bombs, like I just described, landing on each missile silo, because the missiles are buried very deep and you have to penetrate the earth. So you drop them just above the silo, blow up the weapons. And you've killed their missiles. Pentagon terminology, you kill them. Millions of people dying is called collateral damage, and in Pentagon terms, people are, quotes, disassembled. But the missiles are killed. Now, millions of people or more will die, but that doesn't matter because America's won the nuclear war. Now, the Russians don't want you to win a nuclear war because they've got the same testosterone poisoning affecting their reptilian midbrains as do the Americans. So they've dug a huge cave in the Ural Mountains, and they've got a missile there called the Dead Hand. And if their satellites, which are actually deteriorating and not working properly, pick up your first strike attack of thousands of hydrogen bombs in space coming towards them, they press their button, up goes the dead hand, which by radio and computer control sends a message to all their missiles to launch, so that at least they're going to kill all of you and destroy all of your cities and burn your country and Canada and Australia and Japan and Europe and everything, because everything's targeted. And then they haven't been defeated, because then you're both dead. And as the cities burn, the city's now full of oil refineries. I mean, I flew into Atlanta today, and just off the airport, huge oil tanks, which we've got to stop burning, incidentally, and wood and plastic and you name it. As the smoke rises up into the stratosphere because of the tremendous thermal convection of the heat and the flames and the fires, the Earth will be surrounded by a pall of black smoke so thick it will block out the sun for years. Now, when it doesn't shine, the sun, it gets cold. It will induce a nuclear winter, short ice age, and everything and everyone will freeze to death in the dark. But at least America's won a nuclear war. Or maybe Russia didn't lose and they retaliated. The people running these, did you know, hands up those of you who knew that these policies still existed? Yeah, well, you're a well-educated audience. Do you know, most people have no idea. Obama's got no flaming guts. I'm so disappointed with him. He needs a spinal cord implant. It's the elephant in the sitting room that's never talked about, and yet tonight it could happen. In 1995, America launched a weather satellite from Norway. They had warned the the Kremlin, but the Russians are kind of hopeless. They're not nearly as didactic with data as are you, or efficient. They lost the data. They lost the information. They saw this missile go up with their early warning satellites, and they thought you'd launched a first strike. So for the first time ever in history, the football was opened in Moscow. Hands up those who know what the football is. Yeah, if you watch the president, always walking just behind him is an officer carrying a suitcase. And in the suitcase are the codes to start a nuclear war. It's called the football. When Reagan was shot, they lost the football. They lost it for 2 days. Then when Alexander Haig came on the television and said, "I'm in charge now," and he wasn't even the vice president, freaked everyone out. Well, the football was opened for the first time ever in the history of the nuclear age in Moscow. And there's Yeltsin, a bottle of vodka before breakfast. I know, because I had a friend who showed him around New York and took him to Good Morning America, etc. He was found at 5 a.m. in the morning on his suitcase, naked, drinking from his vodka bottle. I'll refer you to the person if you want to know. Here he is sitting before his nuclear codes, and he's got his military officers over his shoulders saying, "Mr. President, press that button." He had 3 minutes. That's all they get. By the time the satellites pick the attack up, radio into the military headquarters, they have a conference, and then they get in touch with the president. The president has 3 minutes to decide. And they were encouraging him to press the button. This was written up in the New York Times. Just about 3 seconds before the end of that 3 minutes elapsed, the missile veered off course. That's why we're still in this theatre, sitting here, and not radioactive atoms floating up there in the stratosphere. And those situations occur not infrequently every year. A flock of geese nearly set off the early warning system because the satellites pick up the shine. A rising moon, the shine of the missiles, a rising moon won't set it off. The Chinese are hacking into the early warning system. We've got brilliant young men who have Asperger's disease, very hypertrophied left brains, who are brilliant with computers, hacking into the computer systems in the pen. I wrote a book called The New Nuclear